Welcome back. President Biden once again flip-flopping on the decision to pay illegal migrants separated at the border using American tax dollars. Watch this.
If, in fact, because of the outrageous behavior of the last administration, you coming across the border, whether it was legal or illegal, and you lost your child, you deserve some kind of compensation, no matter what the circumstance. What that will be, I have no idea. I have no idea.
I'd like to see how many people actually lost their children. The White House now says it is up to the Department of Justice to determine who should get a payment and how much. As we have been reporting, payments could run as much as $450,000 per person. That is $1 million per family. It's another indication, Dagen, McDowell, that this administration does not have any regard for taxpayer money, whether it be this plan or leaving $85 billion of weaponry on the ground in Afghanistan, $100 million of materials to build a wall in Texas, or this tax plan where they want to put in the highest tax rates we've seen in a long time.
Ooh, he gets so mad, doesn't he? Well, what about the record surge of unaccompanied minors this year under the Biden administration because they opened the border, rolled back all of the Trump administration policies? What about those children technically separated from their families? What about it's about 45,000 children Biden administration has lost track of, but he's standing up for families. By the way, those parents were separated from their children because the immigration enforcement officials couldn't prove that those children were actually the kids of the adults who brought them into this country. But I digress. Over and over and over again, that man and people in his administration stand out in front of the American people and lie about what's going on at the border. But one thing every American knows, they have laid the foundation for people to profit from human suffering and misery, whether it is human trafficking or drug trafficking, and the tens of thousands of people who are dying every year because of opioid overdoses. But why do they keep lying? Because nobody agrees with this policy. The policy of President Biden stood in front of the American people and lied about Border Patrol agents on horseback whipping immigrants. It was a lie. These are people who are struggling to do their jobs and enforce the laws of this country. And this president, among the many lies, has the audacity to vilify these hard-working men. That is who is running this nation. As Miranda Devine writes today, if it were good policy, Biden would not feel the need to lie and obfuscate when asked about it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's the Mexican cartels who are making all the money, deciding who gets into America and who doesn't.